Welcome back to Switch to Linux. We are on the new Ubuntu 25.04 Plucky Puffin. And today we want to walk through this distribution. We will give you a highlight of the App Center, a few of the changes, the new features inside of GNOME 48. We'll talk about all of that, but we will start with the installation process next. All right, so here we'll test it out. We can try or install. We can use safe graphics. Go ahead and hit the try and install. I'm going to maximize the screen in the meantime. So now we're getting to the welcome screen here. All right, so we're going to start with our basic language selection. And then now we have our nice accessibility menu. So we're greeted with this very early on. So if you need any accessibility help with the installation, you can set those up on this screen here. Selecting your keyboard layout, you can test your keyboard layout if you need to. And then you can do a wired connection or do not connect to the internet. Look, Microsoft, it's possible to install an operating system without connecting to the internet. That's awesome. Now you can do install or you can do try. We will install the Ubuntu. And now we can do the interactive or we can do the automated. So the automated is if you have a specific auto install file. This is good if you are like an enterprise, you have multiple different computers, you want them all to be exactly the same. You can configure your auto install, but we're going to use the interactive. And then the default session gives us just the basics. Basic utilities, web browsing essentials, and there's an offline friendly version which also has some extra utilities and office tools and things like that. I'm going to check out the default selection this time since I usually do the extended selection, but I want to see what that has. You can do third-party graphics and Wi-Fi hardware if you want to. So if you are running NVIDIA, you might want to do that. If you're running AMD, you're fine. I generally check that anyway, just in case there's anything niche in my system that might need to install something. This particular computer I'm using here it rolled out. I put Linux Mint on it before the kernels caught up to the graphics on it. It would work, it just wasn't well. But if I went with this option here, it would fix itself. Well, now we can download and install support for other media stuff. So most Linux distributions do have an option like this or a tool after the installation in order to let you set that up, because it's not always legal in every single jurisdiction to run all of these. Although I think of these like MP3 is now all of the old restrictions in MP3s have been lifted. I don't know about MP4s or MOV files. But if you're unsure, you might want to check into it just for extra caution. But I know in my particular area, I don't have any issues with that. Hit our next button, and then we'll have another configuration screen. So now this is going to give us a warning. Now, as of right now, when this just rolled out, the manual installation is broken on 3 of these spins. Ubuntu Unity is one of them. XFC is one of them, and I do forget what the third one is. So just be aware that your manual installation for that is actually a little bit messed up. It's a known issue. Be aware of that. Now we can set up with encryption. We can do encryption with a passphrase, or if you go under your advanced, you can do without encryption. And there's also a hardware-backed one if you happen to have a compatible TPM device. Since I'm installing this on a virtual box, I'm using GNOME boxes on this technically, then that's not an option. But if you did have a TPM chip and secure boot and other things enabled on your system, you can use the same type of encryption that Microsoft is doing. Once again, though, you just do need to make sure you know how to get into that in the event your TPM module goes bad. So you can do all those different options. I'm just going to select no encryption since this is just a virtual box. Now we want to give it our name. We'll go ahead and tell it our name there, and then we have to create a password. Give it a super secret password. It's definitely not 123. And you can require your password to log in. I would always recommend keeping this checked in. There was a time going back, bad habits to old Windows, when I didn't always have this turned on. And so I started doing a couple Linux distributions that automatically logged in. And the problem is every time you need to, if you don't log into your system at the start, then your keychains don't unlock. And anytime you need to use some specific piece of software that needs access to a secure chain, it's going to require you to log in again anyway. So if you just log in the first time, that takes care of all of that. And then you can do Active Directory or not there as well. Go ahead and pick your location. New York, New York. Sounds good to me. And then here's your general choices that we're doing. That all looks good. We'll hit the installation button. And then depending on your internet and the speed of your computer, this could take as little as 5 to 10 minutes. It could take up to half hour. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and we'll come back when this is done. All right, so the installation took, it looks like about 15 minutes or so. I'm going to hit the Restart Now button, and then this will just have us remove the drive, push enter, and then we'll be able to restart for the very first time. Now we get logged in the first time. So clicking down here, you can see we are on the Wayland session. We can go into X if we need to. Come over here and we'll log in for the first time, and then we'll get our welcome screen. All right, so here you go. Welcome to Ubuntu 25.04. We'll have a look at the release notes as we move into the video. Let's walk through this screen first here. So no, I don't like sharing my data. You can show what the first report is. Let's go ahead and show you what this looks like. This is just the type of data that they are collecting. It's still, I don't like sending any form of data out unless I absolutely have to. So it tells us the version, what type of BIOS do we have. Of course, the BIOS is being reported from GNOME boxes, not from the computer itself. Here's your architecture, the RAM that we have. Again, the RAM is the amount of RAM I've given to the system, not the actual amount in my computer. So this is certainly proxied out stuff. You can see the screen size, the frequency, and here's the auto login stuff. What is the desktop environment, the name, the type of the session, and then we have the language and all of the other information down there. So you can see it's not a horrible report, but I still stand against sending out data. So there's the App Center here. We will have a look at that as well. And there you have it. That is all there is. There wasn't the location that they used to ask about location, and that was turned off. So I'm going to check that really quick. Are they defaulting that to on now, or are they still defaulting that to off? And I got to remember exactly where it is. I think it's under privacy. Let's see. Can't even find it anymore. There's privacy and security. Location, and location is turned off. So that's the good news. They're not allowing location to immediately be handed on over to anything. So let's go ahead and have a look at the release notes to talk about the types of things that are new, and then I'll give you a quick walk through the whole distribution. So having a brief look at the release notes, the most changes in this system are going to be mostly transparent for the end user, but under the hood, there is a lot of major improvements, and a few of those are worth talking about. The first is GNOME 48, which has a lot of the similarities and just kind of behaves a lot of the same as the older versions. The one thing, though, that they have brought in is the well-being option is now enabled. So this allows you to enable daytime limits for your screen. It'll switch the screen to grayscale once you have reached your limits. It'll give you reminders for movement and eyesight, just so you can take a little bit more personal control if you're dedicated programmer sitting there and you kind of forget to get up and walk around every now and again. You can now set those to remind yourself to get up and do a little bit. As far as other features inside of GNOME 48, most of the rest of it is fairly the same as how it was. There's a few changes reflecting a few of the apps here. One of those being the papers is how you now view your documents. So this used to be, I think it was Events or Events. Now it's called Papers. And this one here is just, mostly they switched to this because it uses the GTK4 toolchain in order to view the documents. Just a nice, simple GNOME app. So you can use that to open different documents. Now, in their original releases, they said that this will support a whole variety of documents. In my initial testing back when GNOME 48 first launched, or maybe I was looking at the beta, I can't remember, it didn't work for anything other than PDFs. So hopefully that's been fixed, but I haven't tested it here. That's your GNOME 48. We do have Linux kernel 6.14, so this gives us improved scheduling and more compatibility with modern hardware, so that's actually good. And of course, the installer, which we've already looked at, that hasn't changed a lot since the last version, but it is fairly new installer. The one thing that I did want to talk about here is the network stack has changed quite a bit. The first is there is a more up-and-coming standard for Wi-Fi security, WPA PSK SHA 256. That is a fairly new standard, and that is now supported in Ubuntu. And pretty much any Ubuntu downstream distribution, which is going to rely on this core. Of course, 25.04 is not an LTS, so nothing's going to base itself on this, but that will be something that we see in the next LTS. Short of anything really bad going on. We also, though, have a new way of checking online, clarifying some old questions about what does it mean to actually be online. Does that mean that the computer has an IP address? Does that mean DNS is resolved? So there were multiple different definitions. And there was a lot of debate about that. In 2022, there was a standard which identified 4 things that all had to be true, including DNS resolutions and network stacks, your local IP addresses. There were just a number of different things. I bring all this up to say what they did here is there is a new plan. It's the net plan, which is in System D. And this is now finally implemented. They've been working on this for a couple years now. The final components have been implemented into NetPlan, which clarifies what does it mean to wait online and now brings unity to what does it mean to be on the internet inside of your distribution. So this will, again, pending any weirdness in the system, this is why these types of big changes are made in these non-LTS systems, so you get a chance to test it, resolve all the bugs before it goes into the next LTS. But this will make systems that have components that require to be on the internet to have a lot better idea about what that means. So this is actually a post about the new system online and what does it actually mean, and they reference back to the specific specification of what does it actually mean. So they just kind of clarified what it is and what is Ubuntu's definition of being online. A system is online when all of them are true. All non-optional interfaces must be on the link layer. At least one interface must be on the link layer and have received a layer 3 IP configuration. There must be a default route to at least one configured address. Discovery of default routes for all other configured families must have been attempted, and DNS must be configured. So those are the things that they're meaning for what does it mean to be online. And with this version, with this new network online target being clarified with the net plan inside of your DNS, is it means that any component that needs the internet has better clarity and understanding what it is and will help the system to boot a lot better with all of the other things out of the way. The other major changes mostly are targeting developers, programmers, things like that. We just have updated frameworks for everything now. This one here is OpenJDK 24EA, 25EA. To my understanding, an earlier release note that I read said they were still shipping OpenJDK 21, but 24 is optionally available to be installed. So both of those were Ubuntu releases. I think this one's probably the more official one. So that was just released. So we'll go with this one. Let's say that the OpenJDK is actually 24 now. I guess there was that. Everything else in here is just dealing with just improved work, kind of behind the scenes. And what we should see in that is that ultimately things should, in general, work a little bit better. Now, if you're new to Ubuntu, we do have, or even new to Linux, I know a lot of people are testing out Linux distributions. This is the software store, so you don't have to go onto the internet. Of course, Windows now has its own software store as well, so it's become popular for people to look for this. You can safely install applications inside of this. Now, what some people complain about with Ubuntu, and I am one of those, is that they prioritize snaps. Snaps is a different way of packaging software. And the problem with them is that they are distributed on a proprietary centralized system. The snaps themselves are open source, so you can see what is in there. So it's not a deal breaker for me. I am not a snap never guy. I'm just a snap only when I have to guy. And that's kind of what my take is. Now, even though that is the case, what you'll kind of see is some applications, which there's a version available in the Ubuntu repository, and a version is a snap. Ubuntu tends to like showing you only the snap. So if I look for Audacity, here's your snap packages here. Here's your Debian packages here. So this is actually a little bit improved. So we are actually being able to see all of those. So this one here is the snap version. And if we did that search, we can pull up the Debian version here as well. So where it says Debian version, this means the Ubuntu repository. So if you were to install this on a command line doing your basic apt install, you will get this version here instead of the snap version. We're not going to go into all of the differences in those, but I do really like the software store that they have for snaps. I think this is a very nice, very slick software store, very easy to navigate. You can easily find the software that you're looking for. You know, look at this. Here's web browsers. Here's Firefox, Chrome, Chromium, excuse me. There's Brave. Here's LibreOffice, OnlyOffice. Here's Opera. I'm not sure if you're going to find Chrome in this. Let's see. Yeah, you're not going to find Google Chrome itself here. There are ways of getting it on here. Of course, if you're using a system that uses Flatpak instead of Snap, Google Chrome is a Flatpak, so you can always use that. But you can see that you can very quickly search for different things. You can find all of the software that you need in here. And they've done a really good job of just making sure pretty much anything that one might want is over here. This is where you can look at managing your applications. So if you have basically have snaps over here, so like here's Firefox, for example. So the Firefox we're just looking at is a snap version, last updated 3 days ago. And then this is the channels. Okay, so there we have the open channel. We can uninstall it. I was thinking we could go with more of a beta channel or an unstable channel, but that wasn't the case in there. Very interesting. Okay, I don't want to uninstall it. I can do open, uninstall, or switch. I'm not sure. That was actually his behavior was a little bit differently than I was anticipating seeing, because you can actually go in and install different versions of these. So let's go back to that Audacity again real quick. And we'll look at the snap package. And you can see this is where that channel is. So you can do the latest candidate, the latest edge, and the latest stable. So the stable is generally the one you're always going to want to use. This is the one that is currently being pushed out, that is currently maintained. It currently is the one that everybody is using. The latest edge and the latest candidate, these ones here, you'll see that the edge is... the candidate was 2.5, the edge is 2.4. Usually what we get is the edge is going to be the daily builds of it. So they probably haven't done one since now they have the candidate release. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think, do I have version 3.7 on other things? I thought I was using a version higher than 3.7 on my other platform. I think I was. I think the Flatpak is up to a higher version of that. So there is just a little bit about the channels and what you're doing. So yeah, you can see here the Debian version is 3.7.3. The Snap version is 3.1.3. Which one of those is better? I don't know. I think everything after 3.0 is kind of bad for Audacity personally. But you can kind of decide for yourself. This is, of course, some screenshots of it. There's a dark screen. Here's light screen screenshots of it. That one looks a little older. That one looks a little newer. So you can see that the Software Center, I do really like their Software Center. I think this is a great Software Center. More distros or more people building Software Centers should look at how Ubuntu did their Snap Center. It really is a nice one. So you'll remember that I just installed the basic one, which just has a web browser, basic core utilities, and that is about it. So this is all we get. There is nothing else in here other than basic tools. Here's our settings. Here's firmware. We have basic utilities. We can see our fonts. We can see there's our passwords and keys. Here's Security Center. Pull this up. Of course, this is the new Security Center. What they're trying to do with this new Security Center is just make sure that anything that happens has your permission. And the problem with turning it on is literally everything you do in your computer will start giving you like, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Hey, did you approve this? Hey, what's going on here? You know, so you get that kind of stuff going. All right, so that's basically what we have. Very simple. Now I will indicate this. I've been hitting the menu button down here with the mouse. If you hit the meta key or what you'd call the Windows key, you get the search function over here. You really have to go down and manually hit the key down here if you do want to see all of the apps. But you can just hit the search key if you know what you're looking for. Like if you're looking for the text documents, just go ahead and type that in here. You have the best app over here. Here's some other searches and things like that. But that's kind of what we get. It is a nice usable system. And hey, you know what? They're doing the desktop icon things. I'm still not sure why they're putting the icons on the lower right instead of the upper left, like sane people do. But oh well. Anyway, what do we want, right? Your basic notifications. Oop, let me get on my gnome boxes thing there. So here's your notification screens are going to come over here. You can easily turn on your do not disturb, and you can see your calendars and things. Now the events here, these will actually tie into your online accounts. If you go in and you into your settings, you can configure online accounts. And if you configure, here's Google, here's Microsoft, here's Office 365 if you use that, Microsoft Exchange, Nextcloud, a generic email server, a generic WebDAV. If you create these accounts, so in my case, I manage all of my calendars and contacts and stuff through Nextcloud. If I go ahead and hit the Nextcloud and I log into my server here, I can say, hey, do the calendars, contacts, and files, and any of the appointments that I have on my Nextcloud calendar will appear down here, and I will get all that set up. So it's a very good system in that respect. So ultimately, Ubuntu is still a good distribution. I'm not a huge fan of the direction with forcing snaps and everything, but for a beginner distro, hey, it might be a good foray into Linux. I know that I used it as my first Linux distribution, first testing it out, so it does have that special place in the heart, although I've moved on to like Linux Mint for my mostly mainstream stuff, and I would probably recommend that a little bit more. But there is some nice polish to this. It is going to work well out of the box, and they do develop a product that is good for ultimately the end user. So there is what we have to say about Ubuntu 25.04 Plucky Puffin. With that, leave us a like and a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. And I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.